Hey everyone, welcome to the Cutting Edge podcast where culture meets crypto. Today I'm joined by street artist and photographer, best known for his internationally recognized works like Face to Face, J.R. Alouv, and the upcoming documentary Paper and Glue. Now he's exploring new territory with his first NFT, Greetings from Giza, dropping in less than 17 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome J.R. J.R., how are you?
What's up? I'm good. I'm in Egypt, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say thank you for staying up late. What time is it over there right
now? It's 1 a.m. It's okay. It's not too bad.
Okay, yeah. So I assume that's probably still an early night for you.
Yeah, no, I'm we had kind of an intense, it's intense to kind of go through the past. It's intense in all of us in our lives, but when you kind of go to the 5,000 years of past, then it becomes much more heavy. So you actually sleep early and you have crazy dreams because it's like connecting with everything's under you is from 5,000 years ago and everywhere. So it's I've never realized it to that depth until I came here. And so I've been traveling the country the last 2 weeks and I'm still here and it's just fascinating.
I'm curious, what kind of crazy dreams have you been having?
Look, I mean, it's crazy. The more you think about that civilization from 5,000 years ago, the everything's just under sand, and you just dig anywhere and you find those boats and those all those kinds of stuff that they had at the time that are way more advanced than ours, and you're like, how did all this knowledge disappeared? And of course we know a few of the reasons why it disappeared, but it's still kind of crazy to us, and especially in a moment like now where we trying to make sure that things stays forever. And maybe we had found a better way than them at the time, but it's just, who knows? It's they had it figured out, and then people lost that knowledge, and then we came back to something maybe close to it, or who knows if it's better or worse. I don't know, but it's very interesting to just go through all and those mysteries, and they were hiding things in a way that you could tell that they didn't want anyone to find any day. And in our lifetime, everyone who's listening now, what is crazy is that we might actually discover more secrets than ever in our lifetime that there've ever been any secret discovered. And that's fascinating. And this might happen in the next couple of years. Some of the people that I've met here, they say it might happen in the next year. Sometimes I wonder if they say that every year, but actually, I don't know if you heard about the recent scanning of the pyramid. They scanned the pyramid and discovered some chamber because of the new technology. They could see the kind of holes and spaces in pyramid that have never been found. And now they know the way to access to it. They just need to, they've sent robots and everything. They've seen the road to it inside the pyramid, but they need to kind of come and break some stones to get to there, and they might be the biggest treasure ever found. So yeah, it's fun. Wow. It's nuts to me that some people have hidden some stuff 5,000 years ago, and we still haven't figured them out, and that would be a life to be to see it.
Yeah, no, I agree that I've never been to Egypt, and I haven't seen the pyramids yet. But a couple of years ago, I went to Stonehenge for the first time, and I was just like you, I was in awe, this was done 5,000 years ago, and the amount of time and space that people traveled to move these humongous rocks. I'm it's just, I'm always in awe for these wonders of the world. So that's incredible that you've been able to spend some time there. Is it your first time in Egypt?
No, I've been there. That's my third time, but it's maybe the last time and this time where I dig the most. And now we did a big trip to the whole country, so I've definitely seen more than I've ever seen before. And yet you leave and you feel like you haven't answered any question. It just raise question in you. You just and that's the power of art. Art raise question, doesn't give answers, and this is what displays do to you. Some people left secrets at the time, and it still raised question within you.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I mean I want to start with one question that I had at the beginning that I think would set the frame for the entire hour. Is you're a street artist, you're very prolific, you put your work out there for the greater good, and for you it's definitely about the art and making people think. So because of the nature of how you put your art out there, you generally don't monetize, or if you do monetize, you don't monetize in a traditional sense. One of the things that people have been speaking about a lot in NFTs is IP and IP rights, and where does that fall? Who owns it? Who deserves to own it? Like, what rights do you get when you buy an NFT? I want to just kick off the conversation with, what are your thoughts, being an artist for so long and being a big artist for so long? What are your thoughts on IP in general? I guess let's start with like street art in general, and then work our way towards NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a great question because it kind of defined my whole work. If you take my whole work, it's always public and free to all, okay? And so you take any of the giant installations that I've done, and even let's take the one at the Pyramid of Giza. It's, if you go there, maybe, okay, the Pyramid of Giza, there is yet a small fee to enter the site because it's a protected site. But let's take any, like the Eiffel Tower or like recently the Pyramid of the Louvre. Anyone could come and take photos, all right? And they own that photo, and that's their photo. Now, when I take the photo and the artworks, because to answer first your question, one thing you should know about my work since more than 20 years is that I self-finance all of my projects. And I don't come from a rich family at all. I just happen to have always reinvested every money that I have made from the sales of my artworks into the works that I do. So, and in this, it's another really important point that I like to add. I don't work with any brands or corporation or government money, to be totally free into every move that I do. So I'll give you an example. When I do the project at the Pyramid of the Louvre, I install the work and I negotiate with the Louvre that I will pay for it myself, but I would own the rights on it. And anyone can take photos, and it's free to all. But the photos that I will sign with my own hand, and I often do like just 10 or 15 unique prints, those ones I will sell, and the money that I will get, I will reinvest it into my work. So often people that collect my works don't even know that I use that money to actually finance the next project. And that have been the case since the last 20 years. So, in this, you can quickly make the parallel with IPs because, it's the same thing. And that's why the parallel with NFT was just perfect for me, because it just came and arrived in a ways that it's almost that it have been made for the kind of work that I do, or made for like the kind of art that I do that, yes, is in the street, but also exists within museums, because it's so ephemeral that the only trace you keep of it will be the photograph of it, or the NFT of it, or whatever would be actually kept by a collector, by a museum, by someone that would then, pass on that the actual original piece from a generation to the other.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. So I guess my next question is, how did you first find out about NFTs?
It's okay. So it's kind of nuts, because I feel I'm geeky, and at the same time I'm way too naive. I'll give you an example. I made my first website, which is still the same website, jr-r.net, in 2001, and at the time it was just because a friend of mine told me, yo, there's this guy, he knows how to make website, and you make graffiti, and graffiti doesn't hold long, so maybe you could take photos and you put them on his website. So it's still the same website today. That's why when you Google JR on Google, I'm the first one to come up, and yet is the most common name in the US, because this website have been there and registered forever, and I have been posted a photo every day on the early 2001, 2002, 2003, way before Instagram. So when Instagram came, it was just like, oh my God, that's just perfect. I can finally share that picture every day on there. So, but yet I was not the first one connected on Instagram, even if, I got my @JR pretty early. But on NFT, I kept hearing about it from the really early stage, maybe not as early stage as like CryptoPunks, but like early stage. And then it always like stay in the corner of my mind, and then I wait, and then I don't necessarily go as the first one. I kind of wait of where will make the much sense for the work that I do. And of course, it could have happened on many other projects, but sometime I had already financed that project, or sometime I had, I was so taken. We're a small team, so when we go around the world, you have to imagine we do everything by ourselves, get the permit, build, do the whole thing. So sometimes we don't have the time and sit and plan. And that's why I waited so long to do it, because I wanted it to be right. I wanted it to be connected deeply with the work, to be thought of from the beginning of the creation of it.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense, right? Like I think we're right now in I think now we're starting to come out of that phase where NFTs made a huge splash on the scene at the beginning of the year. And then I think there was this quiet period where a lot of creators, artists like yourself, that were like, okay, this thing seems like it's here to stay. It seems like it's real. Now, what can I do with it that is true to who I am as a creator and is something cool and interesting that I want to do, right? And I think now we're starting to see that with people like yourself and others that are starting to come into the space in a very authentic fashion.
Definitely. And that's why it's fascinating, because I was observing, of course, but I was not in a hurry. I really wanted it to make sense, and you know, that would be only my first one, which I'm very excited. But I will do many more. But I would always not rush to do it at every single of my project, whenever it makes sense. And if you look at my work, it have always been the case. I never repeated a project. I never copy paste any other projects. When I've done a project or an issue, I would never come back on it after. I move on, and I always reinvent myself on every project and goes into ground that I don't know. Because if not, what's interesting about being an artist and going through this journey, if it's not to actually explore the zones where you're actually the less comfortable in, you know. And so, because I want to learn, you know, I'm studying as I'm doing, and NFT is the same process to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with. One of the questions I guess I have, because I think this is really pertinent to current NFT creators that are coming up, was like, how did you get started? How did you go from being a street artist and, let's say, like doing graffiti and posting your pictures on walls randomly, to like figuring out how to get an income from it so that you can continue doing it? Because I think that's like super interesting, especially coming from a world where you generally don't get paid for your art.
Yeah, and again, so, you know, coming from a family that didn't have much money, and also didn't knew much about the art whatsoever. I didn't even know there was art school. I didn't even know there was like galleries. I know there was museum, because sometime in school they take you to museums, but I didn't know there was a job for being an artist. And I started doing graffiti. Graffiti is about leaving a mark to be remembered, leaving a mark to say, hey, I'm here, I exist. You know, I live in these projects, but you can see my name on the side of these walls. And then some people from your community comes and say, hey, I know him. Oh yeah, he's the guy who lives there. Or we don't know who that guy is, but we've seen his name. It's interesting. I'm sure a lot of the people who are listening now knows the same from that world where everyone's behind an IP, but knows kind of who is who, and or if not, kind of know of, you know. And so graffiti was kind of that same very tiny community, but that people would start recognizing each other. And of course, I couldn't make no living from it, and I would not even thinking of making any living. It was called vandalism, and you could pay fine for it. But what's interesting is, by chance, my story is that I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a really famous gang of graffiti, which was called ABC, and they were really legendary guys, but a bit older than me. And so I could never catch up to them. They were so good, and I was so young. It was such a gap. So when I found a camera, and that's a true story, I found a shitty camera in the subway, not digital even, it's like a film camera. I started documenting the trips of like going in the subway station and tagging trains, and I would just photograph it, making sure we don't see their face, but we kind of see the scene and what's happening in the tunnels and on the rooftop. And then I started making photocopies of those because that was really cheap. And I would giving them to them. And then I started pasting them on walls. So you have to imagine that because I was born in 83, I'm the generation who have actually seen low-cost flights happen so I could travel, that I have actually seen a digital photography arrive so that photography was not a rich sport anymore. It's, if I was born 10 years earlier, I would have never done what I do because I would have totally missed on this chance to catch that train, and put my name on it. So From there, people started noticing my walk in the street because I would paste those photos in the street and I would frame them with paint. And people would be like, oh, what is this? And when the city would come and clean the paper, the frame with paint would still be up there. So I would come and paste it again and then started enlarging them. And so this journey started. And then when I was 22, 23, Banksy and his manager contacted me and like signed me up in their gallery in London. And that was the first gallery I ever exhibited in. And I started selling my work. So between then, I was just hustling from here and there, making money, unloading trucks on markets, doing other kind of walks. And then from 22, when I did my first exhibition in London, then, you know, I make a couple $1,000 and I, same thing, continued reinvested them into my work. I always knew that I didn't need much to do my work. And if you look at the progression of my work, it's just that it's also, it's a clear journey in the same direction, which I've always reinvested the money in so that I'll be able to do what I do and engage more people and do what I do today. So, you know, it's, I see a lot of parallel with the, you know, the NFT world and the, you know, the way communities gets together and it's, to me, it's fascinating. All those bridges, I feel like it's like I'm entering another community.
Oh, yeah.
I'm brand new, but like I'm finding the same pattern.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And speaking of community, one of the things that we do here on the show every week is we do a POAP. And so that window actually just started for those that are listening in live. If you go to g.money/POAP, POAP, the window will be open for like the next 30 minutes and you'll be able to collect this week's POAP featuring JR. And I think that that's one of those interesting things that I think is really remarkable about what you're able to do, even before the rise of Web3, is you have been done a really good job at creating communities around the world, right? Like you will go to these different areas around the world and you'll have people, strangers, help you with these installations. How did that come about? How did you find them? How were you able to bring these people together?
Okay, so a few ways. First, I never believed that anyone would help me except my friends, you know. And when I went to the Middle East, you know, when they were building the wall between Israel and Palestine, that's when I realized how the communities on each side would come and say, hey, you know, I'm from here. Let me help you. And I say, they would first ask me, what is the purpose of your project? And I said, no, I'm an artist. Yeah, but who is paying you? No, I'm paying myself. I came here, took my own ticket to come and do this. But why are you doing this? I say, I don't know. It's, you know, I took those photographs. Maybe by pasting them, it would raise question and maybe change the perception we have about this place. And then I said, okay, I want to be in. How can I help you? And I said, look, I'm trying to reach that wall. Can you help me? Yes, I know that person is my neighbor. Take the ladder from this other guy. Let's go there. Let me help you paste it. Let's get the water from this guy. And then I was trying to find a place where people tell me art have no place here. So I kept, you know, all my first years, if you look, I went to like Brazil, Cambodia, India, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Sudan, you know, all those places. I was waiting for someone to say art have no place here. And actually people tell me, who are you to think that art couldn't have not a place here? You know, everyone needs dignity, and art is an amazing way to actually change the perception people have about us. And so in each of those places, not only people would help me, but they would not help me, JR, they would basically would help those posters to get up because it would change their own, you know, life and the way that people would perceive them. And of course, they knew that there was no fake promises. I didn't know what it would change. And I didn't know that I didn't come there and say, by doing this installation in the favelas of Brazil, this is what is going to happen. And I remember having those conversations with the drug dealers and telling them, I'm not going to pay any money to do this. I'm asking if I could do that. It's a project about women and I want to place them on the hill. And each time the same thing, they would say, but what, you know, what are you going to accomplish with that? And I could never, you don't have an answer for that when you're an artist. You raise questions, you don't give answers because you don't have them. And each time people were like, okay, let's try, you know, because I was ready to fail. And I always try a project and start a project when there's more chance for failure than success. So we installed it there. And now if you look at the project in the favela, for example, 11 years later, it had a gigantic impact. Now there's a school there. They put electricity and installed many of the things. The city and the mayor had admitted that this project have changed the perception that he had about that place, the way the people are being perceived, even if it haven't changed the whole situation. But we took tens of children out of drug dealing. I would have never thought that art would have that impact. Once I realized that, I started applying it in different places, in prison, in like lots of different contexts around the world, and making it free to everyone. I have a project that is called Inside That Project, where I send free posters to whoever send me their photo. I don't ask what's their project. I don't ask what's their message necessarily. I would just say, just whatever your statement is, as long as you're not an extremist, we'll ship your posters giant size wherever you are in the world for free. But if you can afford it, just pay for someone else. And this project, I thought it would just die a year later because of the community would like take advantage of it. It's been 11 years and we've sent 400,000 posters anywhere you go in the world. And you see those posters who are like, 30 feet by whatever on the walls. And I haven't taken the photo. I haven't pasted them. I just printed them. And so the community base, it's an essential thing. I even 15 years ago on my website, there was even just a map and you could click wherever you were from. And this way I would see how many people wanted to get involved depending of the country. And I would be like, oh, wow, in India, there's hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of people in this city or 1,000 people in that city. Let me go there and create a project with them.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, just hearing how you were able to build these communities well before Web3, right? Like that's, I think, one of the promises of NFTs and really what people have been super interested in. And I always find it amazing when I talk to creators that have been able to build a community well before this. And like that makes me super excited to see what you have coming down the pipeline. But I guess for a second, right? Like I kind of I want to turn to I watched your TED Talk this week from 2011, which was incredible. And in it, you had a line where you explained that your love of street art was mostly due to the feeling of leaving a mark on society, right?
Yeah.
How does that apply to the new project, Greetings with Giza? Like how is that going through that lens for you?
Well, in Greeting of Giza, there's two things. It's like connecting the most ancient monument that we know of, one of like the most impressive one at least, to like one of the most recent technology that still like fascinates the whole world. And so when you look one of any of my images, you always see the photo of the installation, right? That with the background and the black and white images within it that we really install. None of my images, by the way, for everyone listening, are photoshopped. We go and paste or install or build scaffolding or paste with hundreds of people in each of those places. And so the thing is, normally what the final piece that will remain is always the photograph of it. That's the only trace we have of it. And I could never find a way to kind of make sure that my community keeps a piece of the actual original artworks. If you look at the pyramid, if you look at the pyramid of Giza, you can, the actual artworks is the black and white hand holding a section of the pyramid that will create that illusion that the top of the pyramid is floating above. So for the first time, with NFT, I can decompose it in tiny sections and make sure that the community owns each of them a tiny piece of it, of the actual original artworks. And when you look at how we did the pyramid of the Louvre, you will see that there was 1,500 piece section pasted. But of course, the more people would walk on it and the more they would disappear. And so it's the first time now that I can make sure that actually not one single person owns it, but like 4,591 person would actually own, the sections of it. And that's, to me, it's fascinating. It's like I'm just at the beginning of that journey, and there couldn't be a better project to do it, because there's mysteries within that pyramid. There'll be mysteries within the NFTs. And everyone will have that tiny section of it that actually is almost an abstract painting. It's the pure definition of what I do. If you look at the backdrop of those inside out posters that I've sent around the world, I've always used dots. And the reason why I use dots, it's because in those posters that people send me from around the world, since 2011. Some people have a good camera and they send me a great file, but some people have a shitty phone or like a shitty camera, and I didn't want it to be disadvantage from others. So I used a half-tone filter that became my signatures to uniform all the image. This way, no one is like more professional photographer than another. Every portrait looks the same. And when you zoom in, all you find is those dots. Well, I applied that to all of my works. And so all of my pastings, anyway, if you zoom in, you'll find those dots. And that's what you'll see in those NFTs. Each one of them, when you zoom in, you'll find those dots. And those dots are literally, what defines my work.
Yeah, no, I think it's super interesting, right? I find that super intriguing about the project, because I think when you see new artists come into the space, you want as a collector and as a fan, you want to see them coming in a very authentic way, right? So I personally, I'll say, like, one of the things and I've had this conversation in the past, right? Like, I think 6 or 7 months ago, people were spray painting my ape onto like different walls in different cities, and that was awesome, right? And I loved it, right? Because I'm like, oh my god, like, this is incredible, because I didn't think it would happen this quickly. But like, one of the things is, to the flip side, which you know very well, is that's not there for very long, right? It's going to get either graffitied over, or something new, or somebody else will tag it, or whatever. And so I think one of like the things, because that was happening, I was having a couple conversations with a couple street artists where it's like, well, how do we get this so that the collector or your fans can experience it on the blockchain, right? Like, so that it is somewhere where it lives forever, even though in that moment in time, it's only there for however long it's there for, right? And I think NFTs are a great way to do it. And I think the way you're going about it is also really cool, and maybe sets some sort of standard, or at least gets people thinking about it in a different way, right?
Definitely. I mean, in all my practice and in all that have inspired me in art, actually, is when you re-question a whole system. It's when you're like, oh, I thought that I had figured it all out, and suddenly there's a new mode, there's a new model, there's something that expands your perception, your vision, that you don't see the full extent of where it's taking you. That's where I feel triggers as an artist, and whenever I feel that I know the whole system, in and out and stuff, that's where I'm out. I kind of want to be challenged constantly, and then what a better way to do it, than this process.
Yeah, I guess going into the details a little bit, right? I know there's 4,591 pieces. So that's the number of years since the pyramids were constructed, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and then could you just go into, I guess, some of the specifics on the pieces themselves, as well, like, maybe like some of the rarities and like the hidden messages that people, that collectors and people should be looking out for?
Yeah, so, well, you'll see on my last post on Instagram, I showed how we decompose, in just like sections. And so you might get piece of the hand, piece of the pyramid, piece of the sky. It's all random, but you actually, no matter what, will have those dots, because that's how the whole file is being processed. Then I don't know if you know, but about the hieroglyph. Gardiner was a famous ancient Egyptian scholar, and he created 26 categories of hieroglyph. Such as like category A, man and his professions, and then category B and C, and D. There's all those categories, and each of them we choose some of the symbols, and we put some in it to make 7 and 38 core hieroglyph from those reference. What was interesting in there actually is that he did the whole alphabet, but there was not the letter J. And so I had to create the letter J. So I created 5 special symbols that are in there. And you have to know, for whatever hieroglyph we're using, each of them is only used once in it. So if you zoom in and you find one of those rarities, there's 7 and 38 cores. If you have that one, like the hat or the glasses or the one of the hieroglyph, that's it. That's the only one that I have it. So it's interesting that I found crazy that this, a Gardner guy never created the letter J. So you have like trees and plants and sky, earth and water and caves like fish and part of fish. And it's kind of amazing. All of this, you can find it. It's public knowledge. It's on Wikipedia. And I could not believe it. We spoke with like, Egyptologist from the British Museum from here in Egypt, and all of them say, guys, just open your eyes. It's all over. We've translated this many times over. And, a single symbol can mean so much, can tell a whole history. And if you combine them, then it tells, another story. And we just decided to use this. Then you have the golden spiral, and some, of those dots are hidden around the golden spiral, and you'll see that if you go also on the image I posted. And there's 10 different sections where the pieces are from. Sometimes a piece can be from multiple sections, but we decided to open it for a week, and that's what we did. And those are the last. Now it's not 24 hours, like the last maybe 16 or 18 hours to apply. Now it should be. So it's been kind of crazy week, I have to say, and it's closing tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and people go to henny.com to sign up on the list, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We did the same thing of like you apply, and then we're gonna validate randomly, of course, people, and then we won't be able to attribute. I have to say, I can't tell the number, but the number are huge. And
yeah, I applied yesterday, and I was in talking to somebody on your team. Like, the number is massive.
Yeah, it's not. To be honest, it's crazy. It gives me incredible hope for what can be built as a community in the future, and what can what I can do in my work and combine it with like projects. It's just nuts. But I'm excited. We're gonna announce the numbers actually on Friday, and then a week from now, people will actually receive the actual NFT.
Yeah, and so I guess a question I have then is, and I understand if you don't necessarily want to share that much about like what with the success that you're seeing already in the demand, and what are you thinking of like for next? Like what I don't want to. I know you're working on this right now, but I'm sure you've had ideas of like, okay, like how can I make this a grander thing, and I'm sure get more people involved and make this even bigger scale, right?
Oh, first of all, of course, we have a roadmap for this one. There's a lot of utilities that will come up, and I can't reveal them now. Be patient, but trust me, this is just the beginning. And of course, on my other projects, I have to say that, people will see the numbers when it come up, but it just gives me so much ideas that I never had even a week ago. So you gotta leave me a bit of time to process and be like, okay, wait, let's think differently. That's the community. What can we do? How can we empower other communities around the world? How can we have an impact in this or that community? I've seen it so many times in my work with smaller numbers of people on the ground, that suddenly having such a number of people who wants to be involved from wherever they are in the world. It's my role as an artist to find a way to combine it in a way that have never been done in NFT before. So that's what excites me the most.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I'm definitely excited. Like I said, I signed up for it. But yeah, I mean, do you plan on focusing, I guess, on like something I think that's really interesting about your work is that you go into these underrepresented cultures and underrepresented sections of society. And is that something you plan on bringing into the metaverse as well?
Yeah, it's been the DNA of my work from day one, seeing from where I come from, but also, the way I started doing my works in the project outside Paris. I've still worked there until, like a couple of months ago. I've always like worked in the same communities over and over to actually witness an impact. And we have that school I mentioned that we have created in 2009 in Brazil, but we've done another one in the prison in California. We had projects in Kenya, like lots of projects. To me, the social impact that follows the project is very important. I can't do it in every of the places, but when I can, I go hard and I continue it for years. And of course, this would allow me to do it in a way that I had never even imagined. So I have to kind of reorganize my whole structure into this. But I've seen it because that's the way we have practiced with my team, the work in every communities, and people who know my work knows that it's about the impact. And even if it's an art project, and art should raise questions, not give answers, like I said before, but at the same time, there's sometimes numbers that don't lie, and when you look at the impacts it had in communities, you're like, oh, wow, art is much more powerful than we think. Actually, I'm excited because next month there's a movie coming out called Paper and Glue. It's going to come out in the US in theater, but then it will have a worldwide release. And it shows the whole process of my walks in the border of Mexico. If you saw that little kid that I put at, over the wall of between US and Mexico, the process of the project in the prisons, my early stage doing graffiti, they followed over those years and asked me all my footage to create this documentary about the process. And you'll see that that's the DNA. You'll be like, oh my God, if NFTs had existed when I started, it would have maybe had amplified my work even more. So I'm excited to start now. It's like I haven't done anything. I'm going to start today, basically.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible, right? Like so one of the questions I have then is, as now we're around the same age. I was born in '82, so a lot of times when I talk to people that are younger, I try to give them advice of the times that I've lived through. What advice do you have for the next generation of multidisciplinary artists that are looking to build their impact?
Oh, look. To me, and we started 2 years ago a school in the projects outside Paris, and I had young artists around me for like 2 years now, and actually thinking, okay, what I'm still like I'm 38, so I'm still in the making of what I'm doing, and now I'm trying to pass on knowledge. How do you define? How do you actually try to see what is the most powerful knowledge you can pass? It's not necessarily like how to take a good photograph or how to do this or that. It's not about the technicality. It's about how you show your work and how you actually not afraid of sharing it and how you actually build a community around it. And helping them doing that in the last 2 years, I saw the incredible, life-changing impact it had on them. So my advice is coming from where I come from, where I didn't have to go and present a book and ask someone if they wanted to show my work or display it, like realizing the freedom we have. But that freedom comes with a price. Is you have to be your own boss. You have to be organized. And from my beginning, I remember when I was 18, I met a collector. And I asked, what advice should I, can you give me? Because I don't know what I should do. And he said, make as less print as possible. It needs to be rare. And I couldn't understand it at the time because I haven't done much. And I thought I needed to make a lot to actually make a living. And then I realized that this is actually what created the value of my works and the fact that I can self-finance all my projects today. And so I always tell young artists that you have to go the hard way because that pays off later. And so that's why I don't work with brands, because I don't want to spend time into designing any bottle of whatever, of vodka or Coca-Cola or whatever, because I want to spend all my time doing projects that will have an impact, that will matter, and that will not just be another product that we'll forget by the next year. And so that's, it's of course harder because it takes longer to make a living of it. But all those tools are here today so that you can walk, from your own environment and share it with the rest of the world and sell it. NFT has just brought a whole other spectrum to the art market that will benefit to artists way more than it had benefited me when I started. So it's exciting, but you have to be organized. You have to have rules. You have to go by your own codes and you have to respect them.
Right. Yeah. I think it's really interesting what you just said there, because
I think I've seen that firsthand. It's really interesting that you said that collector said that to you, and that was one of the things that stuck with you. Because one of the things that I've noticed is because of the royalties of the secondary transactions, that a lot of artists have been able to achieve success, and now they just work on the things that they want to work on, right? They're not taking like the gig to pay rent this month, or something that they don't want to do, that they're not passionate about, because now they can get a living much faster, right? Like it took you years to get there, but now they can get there in a much quicker sense, and work on the art that they care about, that can actually like change the world.
Yeah, and to be honest, there's no excuses. When you go in one direction and you continue in that direction, whatever that is, it will work. It will always work. It's just that someone say, yeah, but come and let's do this side job. Trust me, it's a good thing. You'll make money and then you can use it into what you're doing. The truth is it's a mirage, you think, and you might make that money, but that amount of time you lost doing this thing, you'll never catch up on it in your entire life, because that you could have put that time onto your own projects, to things that will matter. And you know what? I realized I'm very hard with myself, but I when I do small speech, like I had to do one a couple of weeks ago, that was like a 10-minute speech on a small stage. And I spoke about the project that really impacted me and impacted the community. So the one in the prisons, the one in Mexico, and this. And then I'm like, wait. So what am I doing the rest of the time? I've done this cool project here, that cool project there, but will that be a project that I'll speak one day if I'm like talking to a class, or if I'm making a book tomorrow, will I put this project in it? And then I started thinking, being like, I cut out most of the project that was coming up in the next couple of years, because I want to decide, this is where I want to go. This is the community I want to work with. This is the journey I want to do. And this is how I want to be inspired, even if I don't know actually what's next. And to fact, some people are scared of not knowing what's next. They need to know what's next year, what the following year. I actually don't know what's next month. And I'm fine with that, because living in that uncertainty, living in that uncomfortable zone is what makes you, stay focused and like on the hustle,
Yeah,
it's the only way.
I agree. Like embracing that uncertainty is like, that's the beauty of the human experience, right? Like that's like your best moments come when you look back on your life, right? They're not from like that time when like everything was great and it set. Like it's really from, it's like, hey, like you remember like, the struggle, so that you appreciate the good things more. I definitely think that, right? Like I definitely
agree. But it's an art to actually, of course, with years and times, you might live into more comfort, and comfort can be poison, but you can live with it. It's just that you have to, you can't leave yourself an inch of like, going at ease. It's the only way to go, and to me, to go over my fears is, I remember when I was, like 20 or so, I would always like, even if I was not sure if the project would work or not, I would buy the plane ticket. And it was really hard to being reimbursed or whatever. And that's it. I was fucked. I had to go. And so no matter what, I had to go. And I remember the biggest fear actually was taking that plane ticket. It was not being on the ground. When I was on the ground, you figure out things. That's it. You go with it. The biggest fear is like, I'm going there, but do I know people? Will that work? Will I get arrested? People all come through with their own fear and say, oh man, you're going there. You're crazy. But what are you going to do there? Does the people want you even there? Like people come to you with all their fears. And the thing is, the only way is to actually just go. And you realize that when you're on the ground and you actually talk with people, and you actually, so it might change the whole project, because people might come to you with better ideas than yours, but actually you're in the process. And like you said, it's only from those moments of uncertainty, of uncomfortable moment, of sometimes failure, that you grow. And those are the stories that that you'll tell one day.
Yeah, I totally agree. That echoes the sentiment. I just want to, there's 1 minute left on the POAPs for those that are listening in live, and you can go and claim it at g.money/POAP, POAP. I guess one question I have is, it's a two-part question then. What is your proudest project? And then I guess also like your most, I don't think you'd be unproud of anything, but let's say like your most uncomfortable one, where you felt like it could have been better.
It's interesting because I've never had like a life goal. I never knew like, hey, this is where I want to be when I be that age, because I didn't know there was even a job for it. So if you look at it, all of my projects, they kind of led one from the other and the other to the next one, and it's like one line. So there's no like one favorite projects. They're all hard when you're doing them. When you do them, you hate them. The truth is, like that's for every single project. You're like, oh my god, I hate it. It's fucking raining. I got arrested. I spent night in jail, and I'm back at it. It's like, and then after when you come back, you're like, oh, it was amazing, and yeah, we got arrested, but whatever. And then this happened that we met that person. Then it becomes this incredible journey. But when you do it, it's actually hard, and you want it to be over. So I've learned over the years to actually learn the process, even if it's hard. I've trained my mental to actually try to enjoy that process, because that became most of my life. So I realized I better enjoy it. If not, I should quit. And I think I managed to do that now, and that I take things with more distance, but I go hard at it, and I'm ready to hit the wall. But often, just like by being there and with good energies, good things happens most of the time. And then sometimes, yes, you could have done better. And as an artist and as a perfectionist, you think that of every single project, to be honest. But I try to move on to the next one to not have to think about it. So who knows, maybe when I'll be 60, I'll just wake up and say, fuck, what did I do? I should have done this better, that better, that. Right now, I don't leave the time to think, and it's maybe better for me.
Right. That makes sense. So we've talked about how NFTs could change street art, right? But how do you think street art could change the metaverse? I don't know how much time you spent thinking about it, but I guess just off the top of your head, what are your thoughts?
No, definitely. I mean, there's ways that, okay, one thing that's very important to me, my work, if you look at all of the project, is about connecting people, but it's about connecting people in the real world, reconnecting people in physical space so that people, paste together and they didn't know each other. So create, I could make my work with just giant banners and 4 guys installing them, and that'd be it. I'd rather get 1,000 people to install a tiny piece of paper and try to connect them together. So whatever excuse I have to make it more complicated, I will use, so it will engage more people. So in there's many ways of how I can use the metaverse to actually engage people and gather people in physical space, or some people who are on the other side of their computer, that they can have someone paste for them, and then one day go and visit. I mean, there's many ways that I haven't even digged in, but I know there's a whole world there where I can engage much more people, and I will make them go out of their house and apply something anywhere that will connect to the bigger picture.
Yeah, I love that, right? Like that. I mean, I didn't even know that you want to make things as complicated as possible so that you can get more people to connect. I think that's beautiful, right? Because I think one of the beautiful things about Web3 and the rise of the metaverse is you're able to connect people from all over, different parts of the world, right? Like us, even right now, we're on opposite sides of the planet, and we're having this conversation with, a couple hundred people listening in real time. And that to me is incredible, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, we are all just humans looking to connect, whether it is through our phones, in person, or whatever. Like, that is part of the beauty of being like a human being, right? So I really appreciate that you take that into account. Like, obviously you've seen it in all of your work in the past, and it looks like you're going to be very focused on it, especially as you come into the metaverse.
Yeah, 200%. It's just in the DNA of all my works, and so it's I love describing it, because some people don't necessarily see it if they only see the photos of it. But when you start entering it within the community and understand how those things are being done, you realize that's the whole layers of it. My work is really about layers, and you can go deep and dig and dig and dig, and you'll find more layers. And that's why I even started doing those murals. One of the things, actually, to be honest, when I first heard about NFT and I was working on those giant murals that have 1,300 people, all moving at different speed. You can click on every single person and hear the story. They're all like video art. and I've showed them in museums and stuff, but I could never find a way that's actually someone on it. And I was like, oh my God, that's just going to be perfect for it. And I've still haven't released that in any way, but that was the first time I was like, oh, thanks God, there's a technology that's here that will actually connect with something that I was creating that I had no idea where it was going.
Yeah, I that is totally on point. I know I speak for a lot of people when I'm happy to have you in the NFT fold now, and I hope you start incorporating your stuff, your NFTs into your projects going forward. And when I first saw this or heard about it, I was like, that's dope as fuck, right? Like, this is something that I think is really cool because especially as a street artist, being able to incorporate something permanent to engage with your fans, because I do think that like that's kind of like the next level as well, right, of what's coming is this. How do you get NFTs to kind of be part of like performance art, right? Because like right now everything is about, oh, this is forever, it's on chain forever, but like how beautiful would it be if you have like this memory that is representative of this small single moment in time that existed for a small certain period.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we, again, coming back to Egypt, where those trace was left, some of them, because just the civilization had disappeared and it's just there, and some of them were left so that one day someone will find about it. Clearly, it's just, there's not even a question about it. They were hidden so that they will go through time and that people would find them. And even if a lot of them were like stolen and disappeared and left through fires, there's still so much. And I feel like as a civilization, it's not the architecture that we're building that will be there in 1,000 years. It's not, I think what we're building on another dimension is maybe what's going to live through eternity. And, again, who am I to say or to speak? But that's, I don't see any of the constructions that we are doing now that can last as long as the pyramid. And you have to understand it. When they built the pyramids, there was like 10,000 people. It was like an effort of a whole civilization. Like the 10,000 people that like every day would walk on this for like 20 years. And nobody would reproduce that today. No one even, it's the life goal of nobody on this planet. And so it's something else that we're building that's like will define our civilization. And I feel that this is a big part of it.
Right. Yeah. So before we go, what can we do to support you outside of obviously people go sign up for the wait list to see if you can get one of the NFTs. What else can we do as a community to support you?
Well, thank you. I mean, it's just the beginning. I will keep sharing it through my Instagram or my Twitter, and I will, be much more active after this drop to, explain on the next steps and on the next projects. And I always start from there because that was just my classical way of sharing, or the more private list is through my newsletter on my website, gr-art.net. And I've that's like my old base, like since like 20 years. But I will grow and of course jump on Discord on the Henny channel or other channels soon. And it's just the beginning of a long journey. So I'm very excited. But that's like the center point of where to find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's late over there, so I appreciate you staying up late.
Real pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, same. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time and listening. And have a good day or night, wherever you are.
Thank you.